Welcome to our explainer. Today we're going to dig into a really controversial line from Sun Tzu's The Art of War. And we're going to explore how the wisdom hidden inside it literally saved an army from being completely wiped out.
Okay, so let's look at this passage. Plunder the countryside and divide the spoils. I mean, it starts off with what sounds like a super brutal command, right? Just go loot and plunder everything. And this has earned Sun Tzu a lot of criticism over the centuries. But is that really the lesson here?
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll tackle that whole looting method idea. Then we'll get to the real key, weigh before you act. After that, we'll see this play out in a super desperate moment for the Red Army and how the Tongdao diversion saved the day. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with the wisdom of adaptability. For literally thousands of years, people have pointed to this line and called Sun Tzu a warmonger. They say he's just telling armies to go out and rob people blind. So let's actually dig in and see what he was really getting at.
So the original Chinese phrase can be interpreted in a few different ways. It can mean splitting up your troops to raid towns, or grabbing the local population to use as labor, or just straight up seizing all their stuff, their wealth and supplies. But honestly, the key takeaway, no matter how you slice it, is about one thing: seizing enemy resources. That's the bottom line.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. The idea of plundering hasn't gone away, it's just evolved. Back in Sun Tzu's day, he was being a pragmatist. War is violent, right? It's all about gaining an advantage. They were plundering land and wealth. Today, we talk about plundering psychology and control. You're not just seizing physical stuff, you're trying to break the enemy's will, to seize control of the air, the sea, and maybe most importantly, information. The methods have changed for sure, but that core principle of securing strategic assets, it's exactly the same.
But look, Sun Tzu wasn't just telling people to go on a looting spree. That's not the point. The real genius, the most critical part of this whole passage, comes right after that. It's the part that puts everything into a strategic context. Let's get to the phrase that really reveals the core lesson here.
And here it is, xuan guan er xiang. This is the absolute heart of the idea. The character for guan actually used to mean a scale weight, what you use to weigh things. So the phrase literally paints a picture of hanging a weight on a scale. It's not about acting on impulse, it's not about greed. It's about carefully, deliberately weighing the pros and cons, assessing the whole situation before you make a single move. It's all about strategic flexibility.
Yeah, and the legendary strategist Cao, he just nailed it. He summed it up perfectly. Measure the enemy and then move. It's all about making a calculated decision, but you can only do that if you really understand your opponent and the situation you're in.
Okay, so to really see this principle in action, let's jump forward in time to one of the most desperate moments of the 20th century. We're talking about the Chinese Red Army's Long March. This is where theory gets put to the ultimate test.
So, picture this. It's 1934. The Red Army has just suffered this catastrophic defeat. They're on the run, trying to meet up with other units, but after getting nearly wiped out at the Shang River in November, they're in absolutely dire straits. And yet, their leadership is just stubbornly sticking to this old, outdated plan.
In that plan, it was leading them straight into a death trap. I mean, literally. The nationalist leader, Chiang Kai-shek, he knew exactly what they were planning. He'd anticipated their move and had massed over 100,000 troops to completely encircle and annihilate them. They were walking right into it.
So with total destruction just around the corner, they call this critical emergency meeting on December 12th in a place called Tongdao. This was it. This was the ultimate moment to, as Sun Tzu would say, weigh the situation.
And at this meeting, you had two totally conflicting strategies. On one side, you've got the commanders, Bogu and Li Dai. They're rigid, they're sticking to the original plan, basically ignoring all the new intelligence. They want to head north, right into the trap. But on the other side, you have Mao Zedong, and he's arguing, no way, we have to abandon that plan right now. We need to divert west to Guizhou, where we know the enemy is weak.
What Mao was doing here was a perfect example of xuan guan er dong. He assessed the reality of the situation. He weighed the enemy's strength, he looked at the terrain, and he saw the absolutely dire consequences of sticking to a plan that was clearly failing. He proposed this unexpected westward route, and guess what? He persuaded the majority of the leaders. They made the call, the army immediately changed direction, and just like that, the trap was avoided. The crisis was averted.
And that one single decision, that one act of strategic flexibility, born from carefully weighing the situation, it became the turning point of the entire Long March. It didn't just save the Red Army from being completely destroyed, it set them on the path that would eventually lead to victory.
So, okay, that was a pretty dramatic story, but how does this all connect back to that original passage from Sun Tzu that we started with?
Well, Sun Tzu wraps up his thought by linking weighing the situation to knowing the difference between the circuitous and the direct path. Think about it. Bogu and Li Dai, they could only see the direct path forward, the one that was on the map, but it was a path to destruction. Mao, on the other hand, he understood that victory sometimes lies in taking the roundabout, unexpected route.
And that's really the essence of it, isn't it? The core idea of Xianquan Erdong is about having the wisdom to see an advantage even when you're at a disadvantage, to find an opportunity in the middle of a crisis. True strategy isn't just about blindly following a plan. It's about knowing when the longest way round is actually the shortest way home.
So this all leaves us with a really powerful question, one that applies to pretty much any big decision we face in our own lives. When you're at a critical moment, do you just stick to the original plan no matter what? Or do you have the courage to stop, weigh the situation, and choose that unexpected path? Something to think about.